Do you need to know today what the power in your life could be if you had a second chance? That's what we're going to be discussing today on Flourish-Meant. Flourish-Meant is sponsored by Access More.
Do you want to go deeper in your faith even while you're on the go? No matter how busy the season you're in, Access More has a library of faith-based podcasts to help you grow spiritually. With podcasts from Christian thought leaders such as Christine Caine, Lisa Harper, Taryn Wells, and Bob Goff. You can hear podcasts on religion, culture, family, entertainment, and so much more. Access More gives you a safe space to find inspiring conversations about faith. Start listening today at accessmore.com.
Today I have with me Tanya Christiansen. She's a stage, film, and TV actress, and she's appeared in films including the recent release, The Mulligan, I Still Believe, First Lady, and The Hate U Give. Tanya is also the guest host on Home Shopping Channel. She resides in Florida with her husband and 2 children, and she loves, like I do, refinishing furniture and many outdoor activities, including marathon running, paddleboarding, and hiking. I'm impressed. Welcome, Tanya. I'm so glad that you're here on the show today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. And the marathons, it's been a couple of years now. But thank you for being impressed.
Well, anytime I run, it's because something's chasing me. So it's not hard to impress me with marathon running. So, which maybe I need a second chance on getting more fit. Do you have a special place in your heart for this story, The Mulligan, that talks about the power of second chances? Tell us why this captured your heart and why you felt led to be a part of this amazing movie.
Well, the movie itself is just so beautiful. I didn't know what the term The Mulligan meant when I'm not a golfer. I didn't know. I had to ask my husband, what does the Mulligan mean? And he said, well, that's a golf term. It means, you get to do it again. I was like, okay. So then I started to see between the lines. I knew it was a faith-based movie. I didn't know much about it. I didn't read the script prior, just my scenes, a couple of sides to audition with. And I was like, okay, a do-over, a second chance. I get this. I understand where we're going with this. And being a mother to 2 children, being a wife, there are many times where I wonder, did I do the right thing? Maybe perhaps I could have been softer with my words. Maybe perhaps I should have done something a little differently. Can we do this again? And we technically cannot go back and do things again. You can't redo things, but we can drop to our knees and just pray and say, Lord, I need a do-over. I need to do this again. I need forgiveness. And I really resonated with my character, Rebecca McAllister, because she is a mother to a son that is struggling with his relationship with his father. She is married, but separated to her husband they were college sweethearts. They had been kind of separated for about 5 years. So they'd probably been married a good 20 years or so in the movie, 15, 20 years. They didn't really specify, but it was a beautiful marriage that had somehow simmered and then they separated. So I don't have that in my life. I'm thankful for, but I have been a child and I am a child of divorce. My parents divorced. So I can kind of pull back from that. I do have children that may be angry with me or my husband at some point. I have to kind of figure out how to navigate that. So there are so many parts within this movie that I was able to relate to and really hopefully bring Rebecca to life. And I think all the audience members will be able to, when watching this movie, really kind of find a character or even a situation that they definitely are maybe perhaps dealing with in their own life.
I agree that this is such a relatable story, and it's a wonderful way to bring the game of golf that many people enjoy into that story to kind of, articulate in relatable terms what it means to be given an open scorecard that God has redeemed for you, and how someone could come back from not really doing it over, because the main character didn't actually get to go back in time and undo all that he'd done. But you get to see what God does to make something more beautiful than it was before you made a mistake. And that's kind of the miracle of redemption, which we see when we refinish furniture sometimes too, right?
Right. Oh, that's so true. Yes, maybe that's why I love it so much. That is so true. You can say, take a, trash to treasure. You can take a curbside fine that is discarded to the trash, and with love and patience and tenderness and throughout life through prayer, but through just through time, it's restored again, maybe even a little shinier than it originally started, you know? So yeah, that's so true.
Yes, I think that's what God does with us. He takes our mistakes and makes them into our messages. Do you
Yes.
feel like that's kind of the power of the story, or are there other things that you really love about this story, The Mulligan?
No, I do think you're exactly right. That is so true. And like you said, we can't go back, but we can learn from that and we can grow. And it's all about growing. And there's this saying, thank God for unanswered prayers, because there's so many things that we think our life should be. We think that road should be a certain way, when actually we just need to kind of settle and realize there are other paths for us, ways to learn along the way. And I just think The Mulligan is a beautiful story, in the fact that maybe this life isn't the way we had drawn out, if we could draw it out, but you have to realize that it's so beautiful in the end, and the way that we can ask for forgiveness and then change everything. We can make those changes, and like you said, it can be better in the end if we just let things be, right? So but I think that the movie's just, I love doing it. I've seen it a couple of times now, about 4 or 5 times. The first time I wanted to make sure everything was okay. I was like, did I do an okay job? And then I got to sit back and really listen to the way the script was written, even though I'd read it many times, the way that, especially Pat Boone's dialogue, it's so heavy, and so the way he delivers it's so warm and beautiful. And he talks about that. He said, God, the way he works, it's mysterious, and it's great because he took a child getting hurt and almost dying, and turning that. And Paul says, I don't think I like his methods. He hadn't quite gotten the message yet. And he was like, no, this is, he works in just such mysterious ways. And it's a beautiful story that I had such a pleasure filming this and just watching it come to life. And every time I watch it, I hear a little something different. There's a line I may not pick up, or it's just so pretty. And then the scenery itself is also like a character. When Pat Boone, the old pro, steps back and says, this is our cathedral. And they have this beautiful drone shot of the mountains. And you just realize that all around you, regardless of if you live in the mountains or by the beach or in the city, this is your cathedral. This is our life, and it's beautiful.
Let's talk a little bit about the concept of taking a tragedy and finding something beautiful and redemptive and magnificent and message worthy in the midst of the things that may be the worst experiences we've had in our lives. I think that was one of the most poignant moments in the movie, when Pat Boone's character, the old pro, pointed that out to the Paul McAllister character. He said this to him, and I don't think the main character would have noticed it if he hadn't pointed that out. I know a lot of people right now have been through great tragedies, great crises, and they're wondering, how could God do something with this? What would you say to someone who's experiencing that right now?
Well, I think that some people have experienced much more tragedy than others, but we all have something in our life where, at some time we may think, why me? How is this fair? Why me? And then some may go as far as to say, why would a God like this? And Eric has done that. Paul McAllister in the movie, he said, why would a God do this to us? It's hard as humans. Sometimes we do think, why did this happen to us? Why is there hurt? And why is there cancer? And why is there death? And I've had that within my family. I've had a lot of whys. And I think in the end, through prayer and through trust and through faith, that is what gets us through. And through the scripture, that is where we have to do deep dives in ourselves and really just rely on prayer and rely on faith. And when you see the one set of footprints in the sand, that's when you're being carried, and that's when you're being hugged, because we can't do this alone. There's no way. There is no way that this life can be done alone, because hills and valleys, that life isn't just the top of the hill and rainbows and butterflies. There are a lot of valleys, and we have to climb up out of them. And we can do that do that through faith. And I think that is just so poignant, like you said, just the way it was written and the way that it was portrayed through the actors and their characters. But you're right, I don't think that Paul would have recognized that if it weren't pointed out, if the old pro didn't say, well, this is God's work in his finest. What some people may see as just that negative and that hurt, in the end, it brings people closer together. It brings relationships closer together, and our faith closer to God.
And I think it's important for people to understand a couple of things about that situation when they're going through crisis that he touched on in the movie, but wasn't exactly explained fully, because obviously you're not going to stop and do a sermon in the middle of a movie. But in the question, why, isn't that the wrong question to be asking? Because we may never know why. In that situation, we did see it all kind of wrapped up in a tidy bow. It is a movie, but we don't always have an answer to the question, why? And trying to find out why God would do this to me, especially, is the wrong question, because God does not inflict harm. But when
Right.
things happen that are crises, that are bad things that God did not cause, he can
Mhm.
still redeem those things, and he will. We may miss it if we don't look for his hand trying to bring us blessings in the middle of our suffering.
That is so true. And many times it is missed. But you're right, he does not cause harm at all. And I just think that you're right. We couldn't stop and do footnotes with the movie, but I think that if you sit back and enjoy it, and especially just like I had mentioned, just watch it a couple times and really just, you even watch it maybe with your eyes closed and just listen. I think you'll get a different perspective of the movie.
You have a resource at the end of the movie.
It's the mulliganmovie.com. And there you can, let's see, there's a Mulligan Journal, Daily Insights from the Old Pro. So that's kind of a book that I was sent from Wally Armstrong, who helped write, Kim Blanchard, who's an inspirational speaker, and Wally Armstrong, who is a golf pro, and they're men that have a lot of faith. They wrote the book. So yes, you can go, if you go to the mulliganmovie.com, there are many different ways that you can purchase the movie. It shows you how you can rent the movie if you wanted to, but you can also have reading resources as well. And they're wonderful. And I love the fact that the Mulligan book really closely follows the movie. It's almost spot on. There's been so many times that I've read a book and I couldn't wait to see the movie. And then I'm like, is this after the book? I don't know what's going on here, because it has nothing to do with the book, but these two really closely follow each other. And I've really appreciated that as well. The interpretation when they wrote the screenplay to follow that book.
I think it's a timely message too, because so many people have made mistakes in their lives and they're in a place of pause where they want to know, can they take this moment of redirection? So many people are redirecting their lives right now. How do I start over? How do I begin again? Do you feel like there's hope for people who are asking that question right now?
I think if you have come to the point where you're even asking that question, then there is 1,000,000,000% hope for you. Yes. It's just getting to the point of asking the question. A lot of us just don't even realize that there's a question to be asked, don't even realize that there is a mulligan out there that Jesus is going to give you. So when you get to that point where you're asking those questions, those really hard questions of yourself and of your faith, then yes, I think there's always hope. And they were playing the movie in a town a couple of hours north from me, and I went and was able to see it. And there was a man that came up to me and he had tears in his eyes, and he said, I needed that message, is what he said. I haven't been to church in years, and my wife drugged me to this movie. And I was like, okay, glad to know you were drugged here. But he said, I needed it. You don't know how I needed a mulligan. And I said, you don't just get one. If you ask, you shall receive. You will get another mulligan. I don't know I didn't ask him what was going on, but it was a grown man with tears in his eyes that really needed this message. And I thought, wow, that's so poignant. The fact that this moved him when he could have just fallen asleep. It was an 8 o'clock movie. He could have dozed off. He could have closed his ears to it and his mind to it and just said, this is ridiculous. But instead, he really opened up in that hour and a half, and he let the light in And I think that just turned him around. And you know, if you can just start doing a little bit of the hard work, you realize it's not so hard after all. There's a lot of guidance along the way. I just love that. I love that he came up and said that to me, because it just let Mark Fincannon is one of the top casting directors in the Southeast. He's amazing. He's a beautiful Christian man, and he cast this, and he said, you know what, if we change one person, just one, out of this movie, then I consider the movie to be worth it, and it to be done. And I was like, I found that one person in that theater, but I know there are many more, of course, but I felt it. So I got my one experience of just walking away with a full heart thinking, wow, Mark said just one. And I think tonight I found my one, you know, and I'm sure there are many more, but he's the man that came up and talked to me. So it was fantastic.
That's such a beautiful testimony to the power of story. And I love that a movie can give us a way to open conversations with people who need to hear the power of our stories, and whose stories can become powerful in the lives of those they touch after they've experienced that Mulligan moment.
Yes, that's true. That is true. And when I was watching it here, in Sarasota, where I live, another man and his wife came up to me. He had at some point been homeless. I didn't ask when. He was, I don't know, maybe he was in his 60s. And he and his wife had come together, and they had started a church, and they minister and preach to the homeless community. And he said he inquired about the Mulligan, and they sent them, there are a bunch of these little Mulligan pamphlets, like little tiny books, little testimony books with prayer and verses in them. And he gives them out, and he just, oh, he said, I'm so blessed to run into you, because there was a big poster of the Mulligan, and we were all getting our pictures taken next to it. I went with some friends, and he just was like, you're the one in the movie. And he came up and he just poured his heart out to me. And he said, my life has changed. And I now, it wasn't a brick and mortar church, but it was a church, of course, is a gathering. It doesn't have to be a building. And he gathered with this community, this homeless community. And sometimes some people may see as lost souls, and they're not. They're just all who wander are not lost. They're just in a situation at the moment. And he had all these little booklets of the Mulligan. I was like, oh, that's 200 more little booklets that are out there. And I thought that was also, I'm just like, ooh, another one touched. I'm just loving it. It's just a beautiful film to be a part of. And as an actor, I also do many secular things as well. But if I could choose anything to do, I would love just to be involved with, like Take It Back, when we had those 30-minute to 1 hour shows back in the 80s and 90s, the wholesome faith-based, or family-based television. That's what I love, because I think it really allows everyone to calm. And you, as you said earlier, I think when we were in prayer, don't let those outside influences negatively affect us, like the social media and just all the technology that's out there. Sometimes we get absorbed in that, and we need to step away from that and realize that what's most important is faith and family. And that's also in the movie as well, where Paul McAllister realizes that faith and family are important, and it just kind of slipped away from him for a little bit.
Yeah, at the end, he talks about putting people first. And I think that was a
Yes.
really great message to show his transformation. And I also want to point out that when you said at the beginning that we don't get to do things over. So the Mulligan, even though that in golf, the Mulligan term means that you get to just do it over, the main character keeps saying that's cheating, that's cheating, that's
Yeah.
cheating. And a lot of times people have that complaint about those who see grace as cheap, and they just kind of consider, well, I'm just going to keep sinning because God will forgive me later. That's
Yeah.
not what this is about. The power of second chances is about taking the opportunity for God to redeem and change you, not so that you can just keep doing it. So it's not cheating. It's more, accessing the grace to live better from now forward.
So true. It's not a wishing well. It's not a little lamp that you rub. But it is, you're right. It's a learning opportunity. It is grace. It is forgiveness, but it's not, I'll just ask for forgiveness. And it doesn't work like that. And he knows it doesn't work like that. He's like, it doesn't quite work like that. But that is true. He refused to do it because he just didn't quite get it yet. He did see it as cheating. And that goes back also in the backstory of his character, where his dad was a cheat, when he helped with that homework, and he was just kind of got through in life. So there are a lot of little onion layers to this movie. There are a lot of little layers to peel back. And that's why I recommend, if you can get your little hands on it, if you can purchase the movie, to watch it a couple of times. Sometimes one is good. One time you've seen a movie, just like a book, one and done, donate it, give it away. But this is the one that you want to keep and pull out and kind of watch it again from different perspectives. And I think you'll see something different every time. Kind of like the Bible, you read it again and you'll read something differently. Maybe perhaps when your heart needs it. Again, a verse will resonate differently in a situation that you're in, because we need different things at different times. And this could be something that you could pull out and just exhale and realize it's through prayer and through Jesus, it's all okay.
So how can people access the Mulligan movie and stay in touch with the creators of this movie and follow them and maybe get more of the resources that you were talking about?
I think the very best way is just simply go to themulliganmovie.com. And there you will see, I believe there's a tab that says buy now, and you can click on that tab and it will tell you all the different areas and avenues to buy. Maybe perhaps you want to stream the movie. Maybe perhaps you're like me and you love a hard copy, like a DVD. If you'd like the book, if you'd like different resources, if you'd like to learn more about the cast, the writers, the director, the producers, there are all those tabs on there as well. So it's a really great website, and it's easy. It's just an easy to navigate website, themulliganmovie.com. And you can find everything there.
So you mentioned that if you had your choice, you would do more family-centered entertainment options as an actress. What is next for you? What are you looking forward to doing in the near future?
Well, I was asked this, I get to ask this a lot. What's next? When can we see you again? And acting wise, we audition a lot. I just did an audition yesterday, actually. And sometimes you just have to audition and forget about it, because you never know. I auditioned for something in April, and 2 weeks ago, I just got a call from my agent and they said that we need you in Atlanta tomorrow. I was like, from April? So that's how it happens. It's for a TV show that will come out in the fall of 2023. So there's always warm coals in my fire. I did a movie. It's called The Throwback, that should be out in the summer. I just filmed it last March, and that's a sweet little family. It's not faith-based, but it's a good family movie, little comedy, but also a good meaning as well. The mother kind of in this instance gets a little distracted from the important things in life. So that will be out in the summer. And then I also am a guest host at HSN, which is the Home Shopping Network in St. Petersburg, Florida. And starting in September till probably, I'd say the end of January is when I'm very busy there, because I have a winter boot line. So I sell bear paw boots there, and I'm on maybe a couple of times a week. And so if you guys love to shop at home and you go to HSN, you'll see me on there in the fall and the winter. So that's kind of gearing up now. I'll be on September 22nd for today's special. Selling a boot. You'll need those in North Carolina.
Yes, we will. And we don't need them as much in Florida, for those of you that are in Florida as well. So that's kind of a fun thing about Floridians, that we turn the air conditioners down. Or I used to be a Floridian, so that's why I still say we would turn the air conditioner down. And when it got below 70 degrees, we'd get out those bear paw boots and pretend it was actually cold. So, but that's a fun thing. And it's been so fun having an opportunity to talk with you, Tanya. I really appreciate you being on Flourish-Meant today.
Well, I very much appreciate you asking me. I feel blessed to be asked and to be able to just tell my story, and then to talk and to have you talk so beautifully about the Mulligan. It means a lot. So I really appreciate that. And I hope you all get to go out and see it, and it'll tug at your heartstrings a little bit. And if it's a message that you think someone else could use, then I think it's a beautiful gift and a beautiful story to share.
I do hope that all of you listening have enjoyed this conversation with Tanya Christiansen about the new movie, The Mulligan, and that you will access this movie to share with those that you know that may need a second chance in their lives, especially golf lovers with whom that story will particularly resonate. And of course, I also hope that you come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant. Flourish-Meant is part of the Spark Media Network and can be found on the Edify app.